Morning, everyone. We're here from Transporting today, as you heard. My name is Patrick. This is Mark. We've seen a lot of great demos on the topic of things that are very real-time in nature, instantaneous visibility, immediate capacity needs. Today, we're going to take a slightly different angle and walk you guys through our Ticontract platform. This is more of a strategic procurement tool that our shipper clients use to procure freight on an annual basis or more focus on long-term contracts. So what the tool does is allows our clients to search the database for potential new suppliers, qualify them, and then potentially invite them to a pricing event. So let's get it started with the supplier search. Mark, if you will. What we're going to do today, you can see it's mode agnostic, but we'll take a look at full truckload first. Then it's going to ask us for the geographical kind of constraints. We'll go for, let's say, Tennessee to the entire US. And we don't mind if they only go to a couple of states. So then it's going to ask us what type of vehicles we're looking for. And today we're going to take a look at some flatbed trailers. So Mark, go ahead and click on those. And if you scroll down, you'll see we also have the option here to look for asset owners. So that's what we're going to do. Those with their own fleet, maybe some owner-operators as well. Now, we recognize that in our database, there may be companies within Canada or Mexico that say they can provide these services, but we'll just go and look in the US for starters. And Mark, if you could hit search, we'll take a look here. So this is searching through our live database right now for flatbed trucking companies in the US that have service out of Tennessee. And you see we've got about 450 of them. So what comes next? The shippers will then need to qualify these carriers. They have profiles in the database, but they may want to ask them some specific questions. And for that, we've got the RFI module that we have on the screen here. So we've come straight to the results of actually an existing RFI to show you what the real calculation functionality looks like. What you'll see here is a European carrier survey with quite a good cohort of participants, and those with the highest scores are stacked at the top. So this is the type of evaluation that our shipper clients are doing prior to potentially inviting some new participants to their RFQs. You may be wondering where the scores come from. So Mark, if you could click on the questionnaire. This is a sample set of questions. Usually our clients will have their own list of questions that they would put into the tool, because what it boils down to is every shipper has a different idea of what makes a great carrier. So we try to keep it as flexible as possible, but importantly, they're going to weight the questions according to their needs. So they'll put higher scores in the categories that they're looking for. And then on the back end, if we go back to the supplier tab, you'll see what the outcome is of those calculations. So they may spend a couple of days reviewing the results that they got, taking a look into the detailed responses from some of the top-level carriers that are in here. And of course, their incumbents will be part of this process as well. And what's really fantastic is you can also collect some documentation and attachments here that'll live here in perpetuity. So certification and any other kind of information that you need prior to determining whether this carrier is a great fit for your business. So what happens next? They may identify the top 10, 20, 50, even 100 carriers from this list and then say, all right, let's invite them to an actual pricing event, which we call RFQ, obviously request for quotation. So Mark, if you could flip over to that tab, you'll see again, we've got one preloaded here. So this is a demo that usually takes about 45 minutes, and we've condensed it into 7 minutes here. Some of it's kind of built and ready to go. What is an RFQ? Everybody knows. It's something that shippers will do probably once a year, maybe a little bit more frequently, but it's a procurement event that's designed to contract out the 80% of their shipments that they do with quite a lot of frequency, that they know are predictable. This is an example of one. It's a full truckload event. Most importantly is the pricing sheet. What's great about Ticontract is we know that a lot of our clients are going to be working in Excel. So you can literally paste your entire RFQ, copy and paste it from Excel into this menu. And we've all seen one of these before. This is what it looks like on the back end when the customer builds this up. Importantly, there's some geographical information. There's some columns for putting in prices. Full truckload is usually going to be rate per mile and minimum. So this is what it looks like to the shipper while they're building it out. And on the carrier interface, this is what it looks like to the carrier. So they just see the entire book of business that's up for grabs in this contract cycle, in this mode. This one's got about 150 full truckload lanes. And over on the far right, as you can see here, is where they would fill in their rates. We also collect things like capacity and transit time, because those matter to the shippers when they're making their decisions. Over on the far right, sometimes the customers will input a ranking mechanism, so they'll see a kind of traffic light feedback that will enable the carrier to determine whether they need to try a little bit harder on a lane. Maybe they're incumbent. Maybe there's some extra work that they could do there. The entire goal, of course, of this pricing process is then to evaluate the offers that were received. So we have an analysis module that we pull up on the screen here. And in here, you can go to the offers tab. You can go to the scenario tab. You can basically see all of the information that you recovered during this RFP event, and it'll be presented in front of you. And what the buyers will then do is start to create scenarios. What is the scenario? It's what if I do A, what if I do B, what if I do A and B, and maybe make some minor changes here. So the ones you see up on the screen here are more of the typical type as a kind of starting point. Cherry picking, who's the best carrier on the row, what's the lowest cost bookend, if you will. Some others, examples up here are things like maintaining incumbents. So what if I literally do nothing, but just implement these new rates into my book of business? So Mark, if you could just open one of these up, we can show you how easy it is to actually create a scenario in Ticontract. You can see this one's called 2 carriers per origin city. So we just add a constraint for the number of carriers, and just pause on that for a sec to see this is where you could input the constraints, and you can also determine where the constraints apply. And it could be at the entire RFP level, but in this case, we're going to go straight down to the origin city and say, okay, per origin loading site, I want a maximum of 2 providers. It's a pretty typical type of scenario. We hit save. The system will then do all the optimization on the back end. It's got a combinatorial algorithm that runs and does the calculations. And once it's done, and we've built various scenarios, we go to the management report where we can see what is the implications of the various scenarios that we've created, and potentially how much savings we've realized for the company, and then take this information back to the stakeholders. Thank you very much for your attention today.